I've had really bad migraines since I was like 7 years old. And one day when I was 14, I had a migraine that lasted for 24 days. So I went to the ER. They finally decided to do an MRI. They're like, what's going on? They found that I have an AVM in my right occipital lobe, which is just like a tangled blood vessels, I guess. And I'd gone to a bunch of hospitals.
This is when you were 14?
Yes, when they found it.
Okay,
but it's like a thing you have from birth.
Got it.
And the issue is that it could bleed and something really bad could happen, or you could just live your whole life with it just sitting there like a ticking time bomb, but never going off. And so I'd gone to a lot of doctors and neurosurgeons to talk about this and get all these opinions on whether or not I should take action to get it removed.
Yeah.
Because a lot of doctors had said, oh, there could be problems, like down the road you want to get pregnant or whatever, like maybe that could be a problem, or it could just bleed and then you could die.
It'll be interesting when you go back out there to like start to interview again and say like, this happened and, I wasn't able to work, but instead I channeled that into publishing a book. And people would be like, what? You did what? Like, wait, so you had a stroke and then a year later, a little more than, 18 months later, you publish a book? So what did people say when you're like, I think I'm going to do this experience and write a book? Like, did anyone say like, dude,
they're like,
that's crazy?
Why? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And I mean, I say the same thing. I'm like, well, I need to like stay cognitively engaged and work towards something that's productive and feel like just feel like I'm doing something. So I mean, my parents they encouraged me to do this too, because I told them when you had first initially sent me that email.
Yep.
I told them, they're like, oh, that sounds like a great thing and a good way for you to spend your time. Like, you should totally do that. I was like, good.
Well, here we are.
And yes, and here we are.
And how's it been then, I guess, for you, now that you've, like, you're, like, not far from a manuscript, right? Like, kind of crazy to think about it.
I know.
Did you...
ever think this would happen?
Well, I guess, like, did you have doubts of it? I mean, so I would tell you this way, like, once you told me early on, like, sort of that you were like, listen, I just want you to know, because you sort of, like, didn't tell me that I didn't know this was a thing until, like, we were started, right?
Yeah.
And so, I always have this feeling like I'm going to make sure my authors, like, do this. And then it was, like, doubly important for me to make sure that we got you along the line. But did you have doubts that this was, like, doable? Because you're not, like you said, typing on one hand.
Typing is
right?
the thing. So I do plan doing the voice typing on my laptop.
Yep.
So I just kind of speaking it is how I've been doing it for the most part. But, I mean, yes, I had doubts of thinking, like, maybe it was too soon for me to jump into a project like this, but honestly, the time is now.
Sure.
There's no other.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, like, had none of this happened, had I been at my job now and you'd reached out, would I have been like, oh, totally, this is something I want to do?
Yeah.
Or just been like, oh, well, I'm too busy, like, with work and everything.
Right. Does this also help you get more clarity on, like, what happens next for you in terms of, like, some of those adventures ahead?
I think definitely I'm hoping that it'll, I guess, well, so now I'm probably not going to do my job that's lined up for August, so I'll be needing to get a new job once I'm ready for that. And I'll actually be discharged from cognitive therapy at the end of the month, so
Which piece is that part of it? Is that, like, to be able to, like, cognitive therapy meaning, like, mental alertness and those things, or?
Kind of, and it's just, like, overall attention and focus. And what we also work on attention to detail. I used to be, like, very good at that kind of stuff, and then I guess it's kind of, it's weird. Like, you don't think that stuff is going to be affected, but then, like, this happens, and initially my memory was a problem. I wouldn't remember. Short-term memory was terrible. It's gotten a lot better. I'm good at remembering things now, and in therapy they're like, okay, like, take notes in your, like, Google OneNote or whatever. Because you might not remember things.
Right.
But that's gotten a lot better. My focus just in general, which is also one of the reasons I was concerned about going through this experience with you. It's like, my attention and focus is not what it was, like, when I was back at Georgetown. Like, will that be a problem for me? But I think I've been doing pretty well, just, like,
you've been
balancing.
Great. I think it's been, again, I think it's an interesting... It'll be interesting for you to, like, reflect on this afterwards, and even maybe to compare to others, because part of me thinks, and again, I'm just guessing a little bit, but like having sort of this rigidity and being able to push a little bit to sort of say, like, I mean, you've been always really good at like keeping on track with things, like having the, like, so there's sort of a weekly cadence of things and sort of these bigger milestones. But it's been interesting, I think, to see you almost be able to put those out there and then, you know, push towards them, because I think it gives you sort of that like discipline to do it. And I wonder, I mean, do you think that this has helped aid you in some of the other parts of your recovery at all, like that sort of structure?
Definitely, because I think just having a project that I'm working on and setting the little goals for myself, like, okay, this week I need to do this, and having the long-term and the short-term goals.
But you wrote a book about your interests, and it aided you in your recovery, right? Like, it's a...
it's a good way to tie them together, because in a way, it's true. I don't necessarily... Maybe if I were able to, like, completely recover, I would write a book about that whole process and everything, and it would be a really good book, but I don't want, like, having a terrible brain injury to be a thing that defines me.
Exactly.
Or, like, when I meet people and I'm applying for jobs or whatever in a year, however long it is, I don't want them to, like, see me walking down the street and, like, think, oh, I wonder what happened to that girl.
Right. Well, and you're it's a part of you, it's not you. Right? Like,
exactly.
It's part of your story.
That's funny. I was actually talking to my dad about that, too, and he's saying the same thing. He's like, you're going to be in a very good position when you are able to, like, start going on interviews for a job and stuff. You have a great story to share. So, yeah, it's just weird to think about.
It's
One,
wild
that this will
to think
be
about.
published in September, and it'll have just been a year and a half after I've had this incredibly traumatic experience.
Yeah.